Hello. In this episode, we will address the ever-changing music industry and how both old and new musicians and producers must keep up with modern advancements. We will first speak to local radio hosts T-Bone and Heather, who are known for their morning show on Channel Star 98.3, and together have been in the radio industry for over 75 years combined. My name is Jada Cousins, and welcome to the Community Dialogue. All right, T-Bone and Heather, nice to meet you guys this morning.
Good to see you.
How are you doing?
Good.
That's great, that's great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves? How did you guys get into the industry together as a couple?
Well, we didn't get in the industry as a couple. We met each other through the industry, but we were working at separate radio stations at the time.
Competing radio stations.
Yeah.
What a nice love story.
Yes, it was. Right.
Competing, and now we're working together.
Right.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive into the first question. So based on how it is today, what do you think the radio industry is like? Do you think it's different than it was before, or do you think it's about the same?
No, different challenges. Obviously, the industry's changed with the internet. I mean, back in the day, you had essentially one source of hearing music that you didn't personally own. If you're being exposed to new music, it was coming through the radio. That's changed, and there are any number of options and things that people can access and get music. So from that standpoint, radio has had to adjust to that, to kind of offset that, to compete with the internet. The internet certainly is a force to be reckoned with. There's no question about that. But through good programming and good content, we keep our edge.
Heather, you got any thoughts on that?
I think, when I started, I don't know how many people remember 45s, but I mean, it was, like he said, there was only one place to get music, and that was, down at the local Five and Dime, and you would go through 45s and look and see, or LPs. So today, instead of going through a milk crate of records and having a index folder filled with handwritten, where to find a certain song, now I type it in and there it is. And I can get it in different formats, any format I want. I can get music from all over the world. If that's something that I wanted to play, we got a request. That is a huge difference, and that is where actually the internet has benefited. But again, there are different places to get music. Sometimes radio isn't the first place people think of today, but like T said, you do need to keep that edge, and the edge that the internet doesn't have and will never have, and that is immediacy and being local. I mean, because as soon as something happens, we can speak about it, when on the internet, if it happens across the world, or if it happens, it takes time to upload, it takes time to do all this, but the beautiful thing about radio is being local and having a local audience.
And there's a certain amount of infrastructure that needs to be in place functioning for the internet to work, that we don't have that hurdle in radio. Everybody has a radio. And you can access radio free. There's no buffering. It's sent to you at the speed of light. And if you're under the umbrella of the broadcast signal, which depending on how much wattage and stuff you have, it's usually pretty large, you can service that area nonstop, 24 hours a day, without any interruptions at all, regardless of what's happening on telephone lines and towers and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
So, staying on the topic with the internet, so all the things you just listed off, do you think that the radio industry could have some difficulties keeping up with online media and all these advancements?
Well, again, that comes down to, you have to pick your lane, okay? And you have to pick your fight.
Yeah.
So in radio, like if you are a format-driven station, radio station, and you're playing a certain type of music, it doesn't do you any good to go and try to conquer the whole internet world. Just fight the monster in front of you.
And be the best at that. Be the best format, talk, whatever that may be. Being local, having local music, having local musicians on the air with you, playing, you know, to a local crowd is going to be the winner, and how radio stays on top of it.
You just have to have that one-to-one connection with your audience.
Yeah.
And
which is hard with the internet.
well,
and a worldwide audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
You have people scrolling and comments and this and that and a
Instant-
heart-shaped
instant
emoji
stuff.
Right.
our focus is Southern Maryland, and so we're, you know, that's where we keep our broadcast focused and our content focused to the degree we can. And it's those types of connections that I think keep the radio stations relevant and competitive.
But it's funny because Southern Maryland is such a unique beast in that it is a very transient society in Southern Maryland because of the military,
Yeah.
because of the federal government. So it's funny because it's almost, we're saying something, but now I'm going to say something out of the other side of my mouth, and that is we have a worldwide audience. It's bizarre. It is so bizarre because when you look up the analytics and you look up streaming, because we stream, okay, our focus is terrestrial tower, but then of course to compete, we stream and we have a website and you can listen there. We have people on the Ivory Coast. We have people in Brazil, China, Russia. It's amazing. Our little show is being listened to in other parts of the world. And I believe that that's the military, people who have been here and maybe are stationed overseas, or people who came from other countries and were here and served at Pax River or Dahlgren or Andrews Air Force Base. They go home and they still like to listen to what's going on locally where they spend some time.
And, you know, there's something interesting about
Portugal, we're huge in Portugal.
Yeah, we're big in Portugal. Whether it doesn't really matter whether you're talking about radio or you're talking about a grocery store or you're talking about a restaurant. If you want to stay in business, you have to provide a service that people want. You have to treat your customer with a certain amount of dignity and respect, and it has to be at a price point they can afford. Okay? So, what is the price point? It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. We go out, we broadcast to the community, we make connections with the community. Sometimes we make people angry, sometimes we make them happy, whatever, but there's a one-on-one connection.
Right.
So that's what you have to have. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you can't check all those boxes, you're not going to be in business.
You're in trouble. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who your competitor is.
Right.
If they come into an area and they don't check all those boxes, then they're not a competitor. They're not going to be there.
Right, because I think what the main concern is that we are very internet based. Everything is different now. Before you could do everything on your cell phone, you had to get different devices,
Yeah.
different techniques you had to use to get everything.
Yeah.
My mom is a 80s baby.
Sure.
And she still remembers Walkman.
Yep.
She got that for
course.
Christmas. She still
Of course.
remembers
Like
Walkman.
it's
Yeah.
like the Pony Express.
Right.
Speaks of this thing called fire in a wheel.
Yeah.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yes.
I totally get it. But here's another thing about radio, and this is probably why it's so ridiculous to even mention. But in the event of an emergency, okay, radio will be on.
Yeah.
Radio receives the message. You can get a little notification from the county that says this is happening. But if you want to learn more about what's going on, the power is out, something happens, you can turn to radio. And radio, I can't tell you how many blizzards, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes in Southern Maryland, where the phone lines have shut down, there's
Yeah.
no cell service,
There's
everything
no internet.
bogs down, there's no internet
Nope.
because and there our T&I with our trusty tower and our 5,000 watt
generator.
transmitter, start the generator, and we're on the air giving timely information, and that's what it's about.
Right.
Ultimately, when it comes down to it, we can play music, we can have fun, we can talk, we can drive people crazy and have a conversation. But when it comes down to it, when the rubber meets the road, radio will be there to inform the public when the public needs
It
information.
just doesn't
Right.
take really beyond a tower and a generator. That's the only infrastructure you need to be on the air,
Right.
in its most basic sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So, third question is that do you think that all of these advancements are changing the radio industry?
Sure. Yeah. Listen. It's a much different.
Look at the people who work in radio.
Yeah.
It's a fraction of what it was during the 80s babies time.
Yeah.
of your
Well,
mom
elaborate
and
on that.
Right. So when I started in radio,
every shift.
every shift, and a shift varies from station to station, but generally it's about 4 hours. So every shift would have a person there. Okay, they would have a morning guy or a team or whatever. Then they would have a midday person, afternoon
Afternoons.
person, an evening person, night person, an overnight person, and all the way around the clock there would be somebody there or multiple people. Then automation came online and computers, and all of a sudden you didn't need those people. The stations could keep playing music and commercials and things all by themselves. Nobody needed to be there to make sound go. So, yeah, massive layoffs across the industry. Tons and tons of people lost their jobs. So, yeah, right out of the gate, as soon as computers started to really come into their own, people found ways to, it's the same with everything. They found ways to go, oh, a machine can do it, let's get rid of the people. And that was,
That was the
It's
hit
tough.
to radio.
It's tough in the
to a lot
industry.
of big companies.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we don't need to pay a
right now.
computer for this.
right.
Right, exactly.
Saves us money.
Yeah.
Free
Pay
labor.
one time and you're set for
Yep.
Exactly. Right.
I see
So-
that.
So that was tough for the industry,
I
you know,
bet.
for a lot of people in the industry. I was fortunate. Heather was fortunate. We have always been employed, but I know a lot of very talented people who aren't.
So is it just you two who's running the radio station? Just you two?
Well, the broadcast side of it, yeah. The sales side of it, there's other people that do that.
Oh,
but-
okay.
And an office manager.
And there's an office
right.
manager, right? But physically on the air, yeah, it's just the two of us. yeah.
Okay. So all the things you listed off, because we're moving to machines now, and then we don't need all these employees.
Right.
Is what you're saying is happening, which I believe you.
Yeah,
It's
well,
happened.
it's
It happens
happening.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So do you think it already has a strong foundation already, or does it need to keep changing?
Again, I'll circle back to what I said before. It all comes down to service. Are you giving the people, your customer base, are you giving them what they want? If you're giving them what they want, there is no reason for them to look elsewhere. Everybody in this room has a favorite restaurant, right? Okay. You might go to another restaurant occasionally. Sure, you probably will. But, boy, you're always going to go to that restaurant. That restaurant's your favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
As long as that favorite restaurant continues to serve the food you like at the price you like with the waitress you like, you'll continue to go there. Those are the things that every industry, radio, car dealerships, doesn't matter what you're in, that's what you have to do if you want to stay in business.
But radio does have a strong foundation. And with accepting that changes need to come, people are very reluctant to change. I'm one of them. I'm very reluctant to change. But you have to change to survive. So
Sure.
take the foundation that he's talking about and then add a website with a listen live button. Add streaming so people
Sure.
can stream when they're going in their car now with Bluetooth and everything else. If they lose the signal at a certain part, because we are terrestrial and we work with radio waves.
Yeah.
If somebody is listening to the show in Mechanicsville, Maryland, and they're driving to Fort Washington, they're not going to pick us up as strong in Fort Washington, but they can always go click on our app
Yeah.
and they can listen until they walk into work.
You can always change and add and adapt. You have to stay competitive.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it comes down to service. And as long as you're not giving them a reason to look somewhere else, to go somewhere else, they'll stay with you.
So then, final question for you is that, are you guys going to continue to adapt and change as things are moving forward, which it sounds like you did because you already have
You have
streaming and
to.
things like
That's
that.
not an option.
As best we can.
Yeah.
You basically answered the question already, but
You have to. I mean, you can't go, this is what we do, is we're all you can, that's it.
Right.
Because that's not going to get it done. So you do have to adapt and change, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure you're keeping your customers happy.
exactly, because that's all we can do. We have to change
In
and
any,
adapt.
any industry, that is your bread and butter.
Because as long as you're walking and breathing, you still need money.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
yep. Well, thank you too for your input. I'm really glad I got to hear your insight and thoughts about this. So, we are going to be taking a short break and then return with Ryan, an individual with information on the adaptations modern musicians and producers are making to keep up with the changing industry. We'll be right back.
This is you, and this is your car. You leave your car unlocked. In fact, you leave it running. And this is a thief. Free car, they think. That is no longer your car.
Every 22 minutes, a car is stolen in Maryland.
50% still have the keys in the car, an estimated 60% of which were left unlocked. Take your keys. Lock your car.
This message sponsored by the Maryland State Police, the Maryland Vehicle Theft Prevention Council, and the Maryland DC Anti-Car Theft Committee.
Welcome back, everyone. Here we have our next guest, composer, editor, and video production manager, Ryan Runyon. We will be discussing the changes happening in the modern music industry. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
That's great. Well, you and I already know each other. I was in audio production last year with you and your dad. Very fun class. So I'm already well acquainted with you. So I'm glad to see you again.
For sure. So great seeing you. Small world.
Yeah, small world. So we're going to go ahead and just dive in with our first question. So the question I want to ask you is to first tell us your experience within the music radio production and why you chose to go into that specific field.
Yeah, for sure. I've been doing audio and visual production full-time for 15 years right now. I actually started in high school. This is my dad's company. He owns a video production company, and it was just a family business, so I decided to go on some shoots with him in high school and film some concerts, and then that hooked me up to doing commercials and other videos, and I just got hooked and ended up working here full-time for 15 years, and
Wow.
that evolved into like the other side of things where I actually wrote soundtracks for different documentaries and films and the whole 9 yards.
That's amazing. So second question, so since you said 15 years working with your dad, and just the family in general. I know your dad, I know your mom, I know your mom too. So what do you think has changed or is changing within the modern classical music industry with all the technological advancements?
Man, that's a great question. AI is really changing the game up, and especially like music sampling and the techniques that they have these days. Like they even have AI vocals where you can take a voice, like say like Drake or Taylor Swift or Joe Rogan, and put it in a little AI program, and they'll have it sing a song, and it sounds just like them.
It's crazy.
And people are actually using AI voices and like creating fake singers and putting it on Spotify and getting millions of streams.
Wow.
And yeah, and then with the other side of technologies, like with the music thing, I have full orchestras at my fingertips now. Just full orchestras, full choirs,
Wow.
just everything, and it does not sound fake at all. It's just,
This is not AI.
no, it's amazing. Technology is really changing the game up, and then it's so much more accessible now with stuff like DistroKid, where you can, like, say your podcast, like from last semester,
Yeah.
did the podcast and then uploaded it through a program and put it on Spotify, and people all over the world listen to it. Just like with my music, like DistroKid, I use DistroKid to like stream my music. It puts it on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, like Pandora, every music industry, like everywhere you stream music, it puts it there, like for really cheap cost too. So you get exposed to a lot more listeners.
Wow. Small price for a big reward, I see. Well, that's interesting. Well, earlier, the first segment of the show, we had radio hosts T-Bone and Heather come on, and they gave both of their perspectives on it. So since we're talking about streaming off of that topic, so do you think streaming services such as, Spotify, Pandora, all the things like that, affected the way that music is being produced and released?
I really do. It's so much easier for the average person to get heard now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the downside of that is there's so many more like artists on there that get so saturated, and the money's not really nice either. You get like 0.0003 every time the song gets streamed. So like I've had some songs get like 2,000 streams and make like 5 cents. It's so that side of things, like, it makes it more accessible to everyone, but then like the real money's not really on streaming anymore unless you like get millions and millions of streams.
Yeah.
Like even on YouTube, some people, they have to get like at least 1 million views, like monetized.
Yeah.
With like to get like 20 or 30,000 bucks for like millions of views. So it's like it's interesting. Like everyone wants to do it, but
Right.
you just got to get lucky at some point.
Comes at a cost. Big disadvantage. So, how do you think the music industry will change and adapt to compete for since there's more accessibility with having Spotify, people can make their own music and release it. They don't have to do contracts with like a regular radio company or things like that. So how do you think people can change and adapt to that?
It makes it a lot easier to be an independent artist.
Right.
To like control your own music, control your rights, like control the stream, so you don't have any like record labels saying, all right, we're going to pay you this only after we get this amount of streams, only after you sell this amount of money.
Right.
And we pay this producer, this guy. It makes it a lot easier just to like be your own boss, be your producer, be your like publisher, like promote it yourself, and it makes it a lot easier for independent artists, but it's just, you got to get that lucky break, get somebody to...
Everything comes at a cost.
Yeah, like one of the artists, a good example of that was Oliver Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
He did the Rich Men North of Richmond song.
Okay.
And a record label offered him like X amount of money, which was a ton of money, but he decided to keep the song, keep his rights, keep his royalties, and he's made over 10 times the amount of money that the record has offered him.
Wow.
And he controls everything.
That's how it's supposed to go. Mm-hmm. You control everything, you control the money.
Yeah.
So, do you think the ability to create and release music at home, like some people do? I know a couple of people here who have their own studios. My dad also produces music too. He has his own studio at home. I don't know if he's trying to go pro, but he just makes his own stuff. But do you think the ability to do that will be impactful to professional studio and audio businesses across the country?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, because like in my line of work now and other people's lines of work, especially with like film scoring or like producing, like my brother, for example, he's done a few songs with Kelly Clarkson.
I've heard of you.
And,
Yeah.
and that was just all just from his digital studio at home.
Oh,
he
right.
recorded the tracks and then sent it to the producer, like BTS.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
everything. He's done a whole bunch of just songs. They send him the tracks and just goes to his computer, records some guitar lines and other lines and sends it right back. And next thing you know, you're on a Kelly Clarkson album. And it's just like, technology is so much easier now, especially with like Logic or Fruity Loops or Pro Tools. Just you have all the industry standard like programs and sounds right at your fingertips if you get the right ones.
Right,
And,
right.
like, it really takes down on like production costs, and you'd be paying X amount of money, hundreds or thousands of dollars for some big studios for an hour, and then they just want your money and just it's like, all right, it sounds good, but then with like technology these days, you can produce hit records right from your living room.
Right.
And especially like you never know how people are going to perceive it too. Like I have one song I wrote for a historic St. Mary City documentary. I actually put that theme on TikTok, and it has over 160,000 streams. And it's been played in reels. People like tag me in reels from like here to Africa,
Aw.
Russia, Turkey, museums. Like one guy was in Burkina Faso, just a like small village over
For
there.
what?
Like Burkina Faso, it's some really small country in Africa. I'm like,
Okay.
I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing, seeing my song in this village. Like, just like, this is the most insane thing. People like tag me in museums, like fitness videos. Like, I'm like, I don't know what it is about that one theme song, but for some reason it reached the globe. And yeah, man, technology, especially when you become like, so many people become TikTok famous and then they just blow up.
Yeah, are you an undercover celebrity? Something I'm not knowing. Like, you
I
streaming all
try.
over the world, man.
I try. It's fun. It's been a really interesting time being able to, like, just adapt with the times. Like, going from only having to go into music studios and pay lots of money and to having a home setup in my computer and being able to like use full orchestras and write like Hollywood style movie themes just from my living room.
Well, going off of how you create music, so like I said, I was in your class last semester, so you already know me, and you let us see your studio setup, you let us create music, all types of goofy stuff on that computer. So what is your experience creating soundtracks for film students, like the DMP students here at CSM?
Yeah, it's been fun. I've done a few student films here at CSM. Mainly like one was like a crime drama.
Yeah.
Another one was a horror movie. So the horror movie was fun. And both of them were really fun. They're really good films. It's good experience being able to like look at a film, look at a scene just over and over and over. That's how my line of work is. Like, you do everything to the exact second, to the exact like facial expression. So like the horror movie, for example, like it was still the horror movie, for example, was like you knew you were gonna make people scared, and they had the main character had a reason to be scared, but you didn't really know why until later on.
Right.
So it's like from second one to a minute and a half, you have this creature, and then you have this like really eerie. So I'm like, you just watch that scene, and I watch it again, and it's like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I'm gonna make you as scared from this second to here when the character goes, and then it's like, all right, when the character goes, I'm gonna put in a just really, or some other sound effect to really just enhance it and make it as scary as possible, keep you on your toes.
So you already see. So you say you're like a visual type of person. So you already know what note, what beat you want to play on a certain scene. Like, you can see it like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That really
Yeah,
is.
being able to watch that and like it's like, all right, now this creature pops up behind the character here and says something, but then they close the door and the creature's gone. So you're like, all right, you're gonna lead them to this cliff and just give them enough and then drop it off. So then when it hits the next scene, when the creature's behind her again, then you hit it like a horror movie, just little jump scares, and just you can really just it's a really cool collaboration with like directors and movie makers, like seeing the direction that they want to go with the movie, and then I'll be like, all right, you're going for a scary film, I'm your guy to make it scary.
I'll give you your scary film.
And it's been a process. It's really fun being able to like be expressive. And, like that's the beauty with like music and film. Like, you can make someone like enhance it and make someone cry.
Yeah.
You can make somebody like feel like anxiety, make someone feel like they can run through a wall. Like,
Yeah.
it's fun, and it's all just like instrumental notes. That's the beautiful thing. It's
Go have fun. Go crazy. Go wild.
yeah, it's fun.
Well, thank you, Ryan, so much for your input and answering and being here today. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. So, it seems music production and the music industry have both been rapidly adapting in a lot of ways, but it's exciting to see that what means for music creations going forward. The music industry is making many changes to keep up with the advancement of media and technology, whether that be through local sources of music and culture like radio, or more modern production and digital release where the music goes straight to the masses. That's our time for today. I would like to thank all of our guests for coming on the show. Thank you for watching or listening. This has been your host, Jada Cousins, and I hope to catch you all on the next episode of the Community Dialogue. See you next time.